Now, in our output section, we're going to walk through Compressor in boring detail. If we're in Compressor's got basically 5 windows that we want to look at. The main one is our well here. This little well is where we drop our images when we're doing single images. This is also where we set up our batches. It'll have our settings and destinations here. Our settings we get from underneath. Now, we can go through and look at all the different settings for compression that we want, but we're trying to transcode, and digging down through all of these, if we just type up here in the search box, Pro, it finds it for us. Now here's all the different categories we were talking about. So let's take our ProRes 422 and drag this up into the settings box. Okay, we don't have an image up there. Well, let's go out here to our folder. Now, you can drag all of your images over and do what's called a batch, or you can drag them a single image at a time and work on them. It depends. If I'm going to do a batch, I do it overnight. I'll drag a whole folder of images up that are all going across to the same codec, to 422, and then going to the same folder. So you can set this up, but let's just take something out of card 3, or wait, card 2 is where we had it, and then we have card 3. Now, it was file 8 we were working with, we thought was good. So let's go ahead and just take that and drop it over here on the well. Yep, this is the one we were looking at. Here's your preview over here. Down below that, you're going to have a history. Over here, you're going to have an inspector. All of these things we'll walk through a little bit more. What I want you to do is just drag your images over onto the well, set a codec here for transcoding, pick a source, okay, and it's going to go right back there, and a name for it. Now, we can change the destination, and this is why we start to have those folders. We're in Jordan 2. These are trimmed and transcoded. This is from camera 1. See, I've already done all of those. And we would just hit open. Okay, that will send that back in there. When we submit the batch, we title it. I'd give it the normal long title, but this is the Jordan setting, and submit it. It'll go in there. It'll start showing up in the history as a job that's actually working, give you a time remaining. See, we've got 16 minutes and 51 seconds with that full clip with this system. That, oh, we just dropped down to 7 minutes. Okay, much better. But that's why you don't want to sit there and watch the screen or dump a whole bunch in and do a batch at one time. While that's going on, we can also look at a different kind of batch monitor. We can create, my favorite is creating a droplet and just putting it on the desktop and not even having to open or mess with Compressor. I just create this droplet, drag my folder onto it, my images onto it, and have my settings. So if we're going to call this the Jordan.
Hey Rick, can you pause just for a second? Adam is having a hiccup back there.
Huh?
I said Adam's fixing a hiccup back there in the booth, so we're just going to take a quick pause.
Adam's hiccuping and it's coming through the camera?
That's exactly the issue. But while he's fixing that, we can just take a pause on this and answer a question or two from the chat room. And a couple people have been asking.
Can I eat an raisin cookie while I answer it?
You can, yes, you can eat a cookie while you answer it. A lot of people are asking why you wouldn't just use MPEG Stream Clip to convert the files to Apple ProRes 422 and then just import those in Final Cut.
Okay, before we get into that, just like anything else, there's a number of different programs to do everything. There's Lightroom, there's Aperture, there's, everything else we want to do there. In the transcoding, what I wanted to show you, but we didn't have QuickTime Pro loaded, was you can do it in QuickTime. You can do it in Compressor, which is part of Final Cut Pro. Or I was going to mention MPEG Stream Clip, which from all accounts is a really great program, is very fast, and it's free. So, hey, have at it. I'm sticking within the family. I'm working in Final Cut. I'm just going to work through Compressor. I do cheat and use QuickTime, especially when I have a lot of figuring out sorting of clips and a lot of choices to make something. On something like my Snow Monkeys, where it's a lot of footage and I'm going to transcode everything and then edit from there, I'll go ahead and use Compressor. If I have to look at 5 different scenes and 20 takes of each different scene, I'm going to go the easiest, quickest, most direct route. And for me, that's QuickTime Pro and exporting as a 422.
Got it. And while we're on that, one quick question. Is there any reason to keep the raw file after it's been transcoded to ProRes 422?
Yes. Your system may blow up. You may change your mind. A new technology may come along next year. A good example of that is Lightroom just came out about a year and a half ago with their, was it version 10 processor, where all the stuff we processed from our raw files in the years leading up to that was processed with a 2006 or something algorithm. They came up with the 2010 algorithm, and it pulled detail and showed detail and did things to the same files that we weren't able to do before. So if you didn't have the raw files in the still world, you wouldn't have been able to take advantage of it. Who's to say that 422 on steroids won't be out in 6 months? And it might convert these to 10-bit instead of 8-bit. I would never throw away my original footage. I'll throw away a lot of iterations, but never my originals. I'll park them somewhere off-site.
Okay. Hey, Adam, are we good to go, or we're good to go. Continue on as you were.
Can I ask one more quick question?
In between Adam's burps?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
For those of us who are photographers who don't really know anything about the verbiage around video, can you just, transcoding, is that just changing the files into something that you can work in Final Cut Pro with?
You're a photographer, you know that word, you just know it differently.
Okay.
When you work on a raw image, what do you save it as? A TIFF, a JPEG,
Okay.
a PSD?
Right.
You're transcoding.
Okay.
You're going from a shooting format to an editing format. Same difference.
Okay, great.
Okay, and you're going to find these movie people have a lot of weird words. I mean, they call folders bins because that's where they used to keep all their, film stock. Why don't they just call them folders? Anyways.
Perfect.
But yeah, feel free, because
Okay.
hopefully if I haven't explained, I'm trying to translate a lot of that stuff as we go along. If I miss some, I thought I'd got that one already, but okay.
Thank you.
Can you briefly explain the different ProRes 422? There's the proxy, there's the LT, there's the HQ, and you use just straight 422. Briefly explain the difference between those four.
Well, what do you want? Cars as an analogy, boats, JPEG settings, how about?
Yeah, I mean, if you think in terms of JPEG settings, maybe you could, like you got from 1 to 10.
Right, okay, so if we think about it like JPEG settings, proxy is down around 1 or 2. Okay. You've just created the smallest file possible to work with. If you're shooting with a regular video cam or film cam that produces time code that you can work with and sync up later on, go through the whole logging capture routine. I mean, be a real camera person, not shooting with one of these. We don't produce, I saw something really expensive and really weird looking the other day, and it hooked to a Canon and, ingested time code. there was a big box that went on a table, and then there was this thing that clipped into the thing, you know, just not worth it to me. With the short clips and everything we do here, we're not dealing with time code, so proxy is out. Plus the fact that it's like working on garbage. But it enables you to get rough cuts down and everything, and then sync those up to real footage so somebody can work on it, okay? That's the only reason for that. 12, full quality JPEG on level 12 is like your 422 HQ. It's the most goodness you can get out of it. And if you have the bandwidth, if you have the space, there's no reason not to do that. But if you're producing things that you're not really going to keep, demo movies for classes and stuff like that, if you're not going to really keep the files around, all my Snow Monkey stuff, all my Mexico stuff from the last 2 trips, that was all done in HQ. Because I don't know what's coming down, you know, and right now I want all the goodness I can get out of it. I would say the 422 straight is probably around 7, 8, level 8 quality, maybe even 9. And visually, at the size we're using them at, and projecting them at, or viewing them at, we're not going to see any difference. If you scope them, you may, but you're from the film industry, so I can use this word with you, and you probably understand, you know, the top is the animation codec. You know, that's everything, that's beautiful, that's, you know, but it's also this big, okay? For the rest of us, it's a matter of, it's a value proposition. How much size, how much quality, how much time, okay? An HQ file, a 1 minute HQ file can balloon up to 3.5 gigs, okay, from 100 megs. That's a lot of information. And if you've got a fairly long piece and you have an underpowered computer or just barely powered computer, then I probably wouldn't want to go there because it's going to be really frustrating. When you and most everybody you know, and most everybody's going to see this on the internet or on a DVD or anything else, is not going to notice the difference between that and the straight 422. Doesn't help any?
Yeah, I was just wondering where straight 422 landed in that framework.
Yeah, so
I
you
didn't know
know.
whether that was like 422 was less than LT or, you know.
No, LT is light, and then you've got 422 in the middle, and then you've got HQ at the, so you got proxy, LT, straight, and HQ, you know, building up that way.
Good explanation.
There's even one above that.
Pardon?
There's even one higher.
I'm sure there is. Oh yeah, 4444. We're not even going there. Might as well be saving an animation, but okay. So I'm going to save that. And oh wait a minute, did I got distracted here. Where was I going to save it? On Ric Mobile 1. Let's just put it on the desktop and call it the Jordan. And this is what I meant about just using the search box over there, because we can go, well, Apple devices, do you do a lot of stuff for iPads, iPods, stuff like this? You can make a droplet for anything, okay? I'm surprised. I have an iPad, and I got it for Christmas. I held out for a long time, but I am using the hell out of that. And wherever I go, it's my electronic portfolio. Now with Dropbox and my iPad, I'm doing more work there with that than I ever did with a print portfolio. So I will save out, go back to H.264, you know, so these are all output, okay? So we want to go and find other workflows and advanced format conversions and Apple codecs. See, there's your animation. And here is a little bit more for you. And, you know, again, we're talking there's two flavors for the progressive and interlace. Okay, we're dealing with progressive stuff here. And then there's the fact that it's moving 8-bit stuff into the 10-bit space is something that's a little bit beyond this class, but we can talk about it later on too. So it's up-resing the quality, but it's doing it in a way that's sort of sharing the quality that's there. It's not creating new stuff, it's just spreading the existing stuff out. Not a good thing to do. So ProRes for progressive, HQ, ProRes for progressive, let's choose that one. Destination, the source is fine. And save it. Now when we go out, we have a droplet. Instead of going through all of that every time, all we do is grab our files out, pull them out, drop them in there. Oh, trying to get my class notes to compress, that'd be good. You can't do it by folder, you do it by shift click, all of them. I just want you to get an idea here of you get one more chance to choose your destination. This is when you want to go back in here and use this one, okay? So we would want to go in to cam 1, but we've already used that. So for purposes of demonstration, let's just put a new folder in there and call it cam 3, since that's our fake folder. Choose it. We don't want to open every one of them afterwards. So submit. Now you can, after it processes everything out and you submit it, go back into Compressor and open the batch monitor up there in the window. I mean, if you're really a masochist and you can watch all the progress bars go, hour after hour after hour. Just keep following the prompts. So basically, if you're going to create your own material for next week, let's go back over it. We need a 1-minute multi-segment talking head, and for that one we needed 6 still images of that person as they talk and reminisce about something else. We needed a 2-minute monologue. That's Yaya, the actress. So we'll have a 2-minute underscore base. Give your person 4 characters or 4 changes to do with motion, and then maybe 2 or 3 to do with stills. Okay, and we'll be working on both of those next week.
Is that your cue to wrap? Is that what that is? You're looking at me with a bit of silence?
That was your cue to go, well?
Well, we have all sorts of questions that we'd love to ask you.
Well, then go ahead, because that's the end of what I had planned for today.
As we have 15 minutes, I will ask away. There's a couple questions asking if you could explain droplet a little bit.
A droplet's a shortcut. You've programmed an icon for your desktop that contains all the instructions, for doing what you want to do, without having to go back into Compressor and find everything and search down through the menus and everything. So it's basically just a place where you can drag and drop and pre-program this icon on your desktop to perform a function for you.
So kind of like if you were using Lightroom and you export a file, it's applying a set of commands, basically.
You could, yeah.
It's a similar kind of thing.
Yeah. It's a preset action.
Okay.
It just happens to be represented by this cool little icon.
There's a couple of questions about, do you know anything about the Canon EOS plugin utilities and how the Canon...
Okay, I knew that was going to come up. I was hoping that wouldn't come up quite yet. It's the Canon EOS utility, even though I'm a Nikon shooter, I try and follow both sides of stuff. And I just spent a week down with Gail Tattersall, the DP of House MD, the first guy that used all Canons in the final episode. One of the guys here who was processing was using Final Cut Pro and everything, was doing a lot of cursing and snapping and frustrating and stuff. And I asked him what was going on. He said he was trying to use the Canon EOS utility. So I went up on DP Review and all the different Cinema 5D and all the different blogs and looked at it. And school's still out on that one. I mean, opinions are all over the board. Some people love it, some people hate it, some people can't figure out how to make it work. It would be really cool to have a plugin that was built by Nikon for me to do all this stuff automatically and log and do all my files, so I could treat them like they were real video files from the old days. We did log and capture, and that's what the EOS utility is supposed to do. But not being a Canon shooter, I don't want to disparage it. I was excited when I heard about it. I thought it was a great thing. Canon does some unbelievably great things for their shooters like that, and the Canon EOS utility overall. I've been jealous of that for years, but sorry, don't know enough about it. But it's worth investigating.
Yeah,
Go to
I believe they
Cinema
include it.
5D is probably one of the better blogs for that.
Cinema 5D.
Cinema 5D as in David.
Okay.
We've had a number of people ask about your hard drive space. It sounds like you save everything, and they are curious to know what
I'm
your...
not sharing.
It's the top secret.
My hard drive space, how
quickly is he filling up hard drives? If he's keeping all original footage and then saving the transcoded footage too, it seems like he would be filling up hard drives quick.
these new 2 terabyte drives came in just before the Japanese photo safari. Then there was a Mexico photo safari. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 small shoots, similar to the size of this classroom stuff. They're down to 1.5 now. It adds up. When you've got 3 or 4 different copies of the files in 3 or 4 different states. Yeah, it's, thank God, hard drive space is a lot cheaper than it was before. I don't know if B&H sells hard drives because I always buy mine at Otherworld Computing. And they've always had the best selection and the best service and everything else for me. And when I called them and said, look, I'm buying 2 terabyte drives, and over the years I've probably bought 20 drives from them, I got a significant deal on that. Hard drive space is not that expensive. 2, 2.25 for a 2 terabyte, 7,200. Pretty good. Yeah, Greg and I are shaking. We're going, wait a minute, that used to be that. It's like RAM, My first sticks of RAM that I bought were 64 megs, and they were $670 each for 64 megs. And I've got to keep that Mac 8100 and gold plate it someday. I'd probably get $10,000 worth of. Okay, sorry.
Just kind of,
Oops.
Could you provide like a big picture of workflow, just kind of dot points, just to kind of help people who are really very new to this whole process?
I know a couple of the photographers chimed in the chat rooms too, saying it's really helpful when you provide analogies, photograph analogies, for those of them that are still new to all the video stuff. So even like what Compressor does and what Final Cut does in terms of paralleling that to photography.
Okay, tell you what I'll do. I'll make you a promise that I will build a flow chart. I've got 2 of them now that we looked at earlier. They're in this download package, see if that doesn't help. But I will do one with that's parenthetically labeled with the movie terms and the still terms. And it'll be all the way from capture through ingestion into Final Cut Pro. And that'll be available next week at the class.
That sounds
Okay.
wonderful. Perfect.
And then we're not doing anything else. We're just going to look at the chart.
And before we head out, we would like one more explanation of what their homework, or I should say homework, but what their project is if they'd like to follow along for next week is.
Let's walk through it again. We need a 1-minute motivational speakers promo, similar to what we saw with Jordan, okay? Interviewing in a living room or something. Somebody's got a product to sell. They're giving you, it's late night TV, it's 1 a.m., it's an infomercial, a little classier than that, hopefully. It's going to be multi-segment. We're working with non-pros. We're not working with actors here, okay? So split up this 1-minute talk into 5 segments or 4 segments. Do multiple takes of each one within those buckets. So you have the best take from each of those different segments. Have a third-party recorder or second-party recorder. You can't point a Canon at me. He's taking pictures. Is that against, like your guys' union or something? No?
It was a picture of the screen. My notes.
Wow, I can see the screen from here. Zoom H4n is the second one. Zoom's also got one that's one step down from that, that's like $99. What's that, the H1 or something? H2. Yeah, I've always got to go for the top of the line. But one of our students here says the H2 works great too, and that's like $99 or, yeah. Again, available at B&H, but I've got to watch the list. The second project we'll be working on is a 2-minute monologue by an actress, okay? So have a person develop and recite a 2-minute monologue, keep one piece of tape for all of that. We're gonna have that person describe, it doesn't have to be an actress describing her different characteristics, it could be somebody describing places they've visited in the world. So you can cut away to vacation footage. You can cut away to different things. Just as long as you have the opportunity to cut away 2 or 3 times, and you have 2 motion cutaways, 15, 20 seconds each, and then 4 or 5 still images that we can combine into kind of a montage and cut away to those too. Again, this is all going to be available for downloading. If not, you can call Celeste at home between midnight and 5 a.m. The camera, multi-cam shot, we'll be talking about that in a couple of weeks. So let's just take care of these 2. These are going to be the basics that we're going to be using. If you want to add in the 4 15-second clock shots, bicycle rider, cars, whatever for speed control, for ramping and changing speed, something that's shot out of color balance, and something of a person that we can use for using the electronic makeup artist as a plug-in thing. So, did you get it that time? Got it. Okay. I didn't know if he was still on the line or not.
Do we have any questions from the class?
On the same subject, and where will the downloads be downloaded from?
If you go to the creativeLIVE course page for this class, you'll see a link to the PDF. And I know all of the files that he will be working with later are available if you purchase the course, but the PDF from today's class will be available for free for everyone.
Mm-hmm. And because it's so late in the day, give her till tomorrow to post that. Yeah. But the files, the actual footage for the people who have bought the class or for you guys here will be available each Tuesday evening after 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time for downloading. Okay, that's for the people who purchase the class or the people who have a pass